Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life, and in this video we're going to take a closer look at the 5-a-day knit cardigan. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Yarnspirations channel for fresh content every week on knitting, crochet, and other yarny crafts. To get going on this cardigan, you're going to need Bernat Softy Baby. You'll need aqua and soft fern and antique white for whichever version you're doing, and then your contrast colors are going to depend on what little chart you're going to put in there. We have a little apple, we have a little watermelon slice, which is what I'm doing on camera, and we have a little avocado. So pick your contrast colors to go with the chart you wish to work. Now this is a great way to learn to do raglan shaping. It is a top-down raglan sweater. So if you're new to garments, this is a wonderful miniature way to learn how to accommodate these techniques, and it also gives you some new colorwork suggestions if you've never tried that before. So this is a great project not only to give to the small person in your life, we have it in sizes 6 months to 24 months, but also to challenge your knitting skills and learn some new techniques. You'll also need knitting needles size US 5 and 6. That's 3.75 millimeter and 4 millimeter. You'll need those needles to be 24 inches, 61 centimeters long or longer. You're going to also need sets of 4 double pointed needles in the same sizes, and the size needed to obtain gauge. So whatever gauge you wind up with, you're going to have a smaller one for the ribbing and a larger one for the body of the work. You're going to need double pointed needles to match your gauge needles. Lastly, you will need 4 stitch markers, and you will need between 7 and 10 buttons, and as always on Yarnspirations, we got it color coded. So you can decide what size you want to make, pick the color for your size, and then follow the instructions that way. So we have a lot to get going on this. None of this is particularly difficult, but there's a lot of little techniques that might be new to you, and I want to show them all to you. So let's get going so we can learn how to do all these cool things. I have decided I am going to make the watermelon slice. So I have my colors all prepped and I have begun my piece. Now, just so you know, the one that I'm doing on camera is teeny tiny. It's way smaller than anything you guys will be making by following along in the pattern, but I like to keep my rows nice and short so we can move on with the video. So you're going to choose the size that you wish to make. Now, I often recommend that you go and circle the number that you want to use on each iteration so that you know what you're looking at. But also, our friends at Yarnspirations have very thoughtfully color-coded everything, so you can decide what color you're going to do and go with that. So you're working back and forth in circular, on the circular needles. You need the circulars to accommodate the stitches. You're going to cast on in knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, ending with a knit 2. Repeat those 2 rows for 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters, ending on a wrong side row. You're going to then go to the larger circular needle. There's a knit row, there's a purl row. We're going to change colors to C. We have an increase row, followed by a purl row, followed by another increase row, followed by a purl row, which is not written out, but it's there because we know we're using that on alternate rows. And now we're going to set up for the charts. So we come over to here where the chart instructions are, and it says, I'm following the instructions for the smallest size, even though, again, mine is teeny tiny, it's mouse sized. So I'm going to knit 1. I'm going to work first row the chart of choice, reading the row from right to left. There's a 12 stitch repeat, and it's telling you how many times it will be worked. Again, mine will be smaller. So I'm picking this chart, and I'm going to read right to left. So I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the white, 1 of the pink, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the white. I'm going to repeat that over and over and over until I get to the end. Now, if you're doing a different size, you might have some stitches to do before, you might have some stitches left over at the end. It really is going to depend on what size you're making. But let's go ahead and see how that works. So the first thing it tells me is to knit 1 and then follow the chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have 1 of that pink. Now I'm leaving a long tail so I can weave it in later, and I'm just going to grab up a fold of the yarn for that next stitch. Now the other thing it's told me is when working in the charts, carry color not in use loosely across the wrong side of the work. The colors are never twisted around one another. So I'm going to just let that hang out in the back. I'm going to bring my white behind the pink stitch. Again, you've got to really watch your gauge. You don't want the floats to be so loose that they get caught on your thumbnail or a button or what have you, but you don't want them so tight that it pulls the shape of the yoke out of shape. So it's one of those things you will get better at with practice. But I have done my 1 pink, and now I'm going to do 6 of the white. And that looks loose, but that's okay. It's just because it's not attached to anything. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 plus 5 plus 1 was my 12 stitch repeat. So I'm going to keep working that all the way across. The instructions tell me how many repeats I'll have. Again, just remember on my little mouse size sweater here, mine's going to be much smaller, but let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my pink. Gonna bring it all the way across. I like to bring my new color under the old color consistently, not because I want to twist them, because of course our instructions say that we don't have to, but because I think it makes a neater looking back. There's my pink. Once I'm going to do that all the way across, and then we're going to come back and take a look at the second row. I do want to point out, particularly when you're floating behind a large number of stitches, that you want to make sure your work is spread out on the needle to gauge. You can see when the stitches are scrunched up that it looks a little loopy there, but you don't want to measure when the stitches are scrunched up. You want to make sure they're across the needle at about the width they're going to be when they're done. So just one little tip I wanted to add in there. So there's the end of my first row, and now my charts are all set up. You can see that my little pink watermelon slices are started equally across the whole row. And let's take a look at the second row. Now for the second row, I'm reading in this direction. So reminder, on the right side rows, you're reading from right to left. On the wrong side rows, you're reading from left to right. So going back, I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white, 3 pink, 4 white. So before it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6. Now it's 5, 3, 4. So and I'm heading back in the other direction. Now you notice when you're going to the second row, you're going to begin the second row with however many extra stitches you had at the end of the first row. So if you had 0, it's 0. If you had 3, it's 3. So do pay attention to that. You're going to work the second row of the chart heading back in the other direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to have 3 of the raspberry. Again, they're telling us in the instructions that we don't have to worry about twisting, that it's not going to come undone, but I do like to be consistent bringing my yarns under and over because I just think it makes the back look neater. So that was my 5, then I had my 3, so then I will have 4 left in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm back at the beginning of the chart. So it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, bringing my pink all the way over, making sure the stitches are up on the needle at about the width they're going to be when it's off the needle and the gauge is happening. 1, 2, 3, and then there's my white back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to keep working across the row. There's my floats. There's my wrong side. There's my right side. You can see the little points of the watermelon slices beginning. So I'm going to finish that second row. And then I'm going to work to the end of the chart, which in all cases is 13. We have 13 rows charted, no matter which one you're doing. And then after that, we're going to purl. All right, here we are at the end of the colorwork section. Here are all my little watermelon slices, all in a row. Here is the right side of the work. Here is the wrong side of the work. So you can see my floats are going across the back. I'm giving this a little tug so you can see, because when I have blocked the sweater, I think all shall be well. If I let it, scrunch up on the needle, then obviously they look a little loose. But again, I was trying to tension my float so that when the sweater is on my little friend, there will be not too loose, not too tight, and there won't be any pulling on the stitches. And of course, although I knit the watermelons from the point to the rind, since the sweater goes this way, here's our collar, the little watermelon slices face up like they do in the photo. So let's talk about what we're going to do next. So I've done my purl. Now this is just a note. It's telling you the stripe pattern is 4 rows of A and 2 rows of B. And I look on my first page and I see that A is the aqua and B is the soft fern. So 4 rows A, 2 rows B, 4 rows A, now and forever till we get to the bottom. So I have to keep that in my brain, and then at the same time I'm going to begin my raglan shaping. So I am not knitting these numbers because I'm knitting my little mouse size sweater, but we're going to go ahead and place the markers and get set up for the raglan. All right, so you're going to follow the numbers for the raglan division. You're going to follow the numbers for your size. I have written my own numbers off to the size, but you will get the general gist. And I'm beginning in the aqua because I know that I have to knit 4 rows of aqua because I'm staying consistent with the stripe pattern. So I'm going to knit, in my case it's 9, in your case it'll be 20 to 24. Because remember, I'm making a teeny tiny sweater so we could get it done so you could see all the parts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, it says make 1, knit 1, place marker, knit 1, make 1. So let's do that. Make 1, remember you're putting your horizontal bar up on your left-hand needle tip and knitting through the back loop. So that's make 1, knit 1. Place marker. Now I just made some little ring markers out of loose yarn. You can use ring markers that you have, plastic ones. You can use locking ring markers. You can use paper clips, whatever floats your boat. I just made the little yarn ones because that's what I had close when I was getting ready to go. And then it's knit 1, make 1. Knit 1, make 1. Now you're going to knit the next number on your chart. In my case, that's 8. Yours will be between 19 and 20, or 21 rather. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same deal. Make 1, knit 1. Place marker, knit 1, make 1. So make 1, knit 1, place marker, knit 1, make 1. So that first section is the front, that second section is the top of the sleeve. Now I'm going to knit across the back. Your numbers will be anywhere between 35 and 43. My number is 19. So I'm going to go ahead and knit that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Same deal. Make one, knit one, place marker, knit one, make one. Then knit your number. In my case, it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make one. Knit one. Place marker. Knit one. Make one, and then you're going to knit to the end. The number should be there. In my case, it's 9. Let's see. Oh, yes, I can count. So it's 9. So I'm going to knit to the end of the row. So I've set up for my raglan shaping. Now the second row is a purl row. I'm going to slip those markers when I come to them from the left hand needle to the right hand needle. I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm just going to slip them. And I know that I'm going to stay in this color because I have started my 4 consecutive rows in a color, and this would be the second one. So I'm going to go ahead and purl back, and then we're going to take a look at the third row. Now let's take a look at the third row. We're still in the aqua because I'm on my third row of aqua, and I know I need to go 4 before I change colors. Knit to 1 stitch before the marker, make 1, knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, make 1, repeat from asterisk 3 more times, and knit to the end. So after that, I'm going to show you that stitch, but after that you're going to repeat the second and third rows the number of times that it tells you, and it'll tell you how many stitches you will have. Once you get to that point, you're going to work however many rows even it is told you, and then we're going to divide. So let's take a look at that third row. So knit to 1 stitch before marker. However many stitches that is on your particular size, or on my little tiny sweater sample here. Okay, here's my marker. There's 1 stitch before the marker. So I'm going to make 1, knit 1, slip the marker, SM is slip marker, knit 1, make 1, and I'm going to keep repeating that. So knit to 1 stitch before the marker. There's my 1 stitch before the marker. Make 1, knit 1, slip 1, slip marker rather, not slip 1, slip the marker, knit 1, make 1. So I'm going to repeat that all the way to the end. Yep, there's my knit 1 and my make 1. So I'm going to keep repeating that. Again, the number of times it says, and then the number of rows even it's telling you to do, and remember to change colors when it's time. 4 rows aqua, 2 rows of soft fern. So I'm not going to go too crazy here. I'm just going to put a couple more rows on this so I can show you how to divide the body and the sleeves. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're at divide for body and sleeves. You're going to knit the number for your size for the right front. Slip the next and the numbers for your size onto a length of yarn for the right sleeve. Cast on 4 stitches. Knit the next number of stitches for the back. Slip the next same number as the other sleeve onto a length of yarn for the left sleeve. Cast on 4, knit across the left front. Remember to keep the stripe pattern consistent. Now, the reason we're telling you to put those stitches on a strand of yarn instead of on a stitch holder is because we're going to knit in the round later, and it's just easier to get them off the waste yarn and onto a set of double pointed needles than it is to fight with a giant stitch holder. So that's why we recommend the waste yarn, even if you have some stitch holders laying around. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And again, my numbers are not going to be the same as the one, but in my case, I know I'm just going to make my changes at the marker. Oops, I just told you guys to be careful about the color, and I almost forgot to change colors, because I have finished my 4 rows of aqua and it was time for me personally to switch to the fern. Okay, so you're going to knit as many stitches as the pattern tells you. And again, I'm cheating a little bit because my numbers are different. And you can get rid of the markers at this point because we don't need them. What I like to do to get stuff on waste yarn is I put a contrasting color onto a tapestry needle, and I'm just going to do it that way. I'm going to move the stitches from the left-hand needle if you're right-handed, or vice versa if you're left-handed, onto the tapestry needle, because I just think this is a far neater way to do it than any other way that I have found, and I do not want to split the plies. I want to make sure that I can knit from those stitches later. All right, going to cut. And then I have my other piece for the other side. Now, again, because I'm making a demo for the camera, I know I'm going to get to this pretty quickly. But if I was knitting the whole rest of the sweater and I knew it was going to be a while before I got back here, I might tie that off in a little overhand knot just to make sure it doesn't pull out, because when it's time for me to get those stitches, I can always just snip the thread. So now I'm going to cast on 4 stitches. And if you're any fan of these videos, you know I am not generally a fan of the cursive E cast on, but since I have to cast on to the right side because I'm going across, it might just be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to go 1, and I'm going to make them nice and tight because you know they can get a little loose, and I want to make sure they don't get loose later. So that was 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm going to knit across the back. Now remember, your yoke will be longer than mine is. I cheated a little bit because I'm just making this little demo size sweater. But don't worry if yours looks longer, it's supposed to be. Okay, I'm coming up to the second sleeve, and again I'm fudging because of my little tiny sweater. You want to follow the numbers on your pattern. And I'm moving this second set of stitches, and it will be the same number as the other sleeve. Move them onto the waste yarn. Cast on 4, once again using the cursive E because that's just the easiest thing I can think of right now, but nice and tight. I believe we have a video on the cursive E cast on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and knit to the end. And at that point, I'm going to work in stocking stitch for the length that it tells me in my pattern, and I'm going to pay attention to the stripe pattern for aqua to fern, for aqua to fern, to make sure that my stripes are consistent throughout. Let me just get to the end of this row. I want to take a look at it real quick. Okay, so here's what it looks like. There's my front, here's the back, there's the other front. My sleeves are off to the side. Actually, let me put this on the cable and you can see better. There we go. So there's the back of the sweater. Here are the fronts of the sweater. There's one sleeve. There's the other sleeve. So I'm going to work in stocking stitch as long as it tells me. I'm going to go back to the smaller needles and I am going to make some ribbing at the bottom, and after that, let me look. I believe after that ribbing I'm going to cast off, which I do. So once again, I'm going to put just a couple of rows on here so you can see what I'm doing, and then I want to talk about picking up the sleeves. Okay, moving on. So again, here is the neck, here is my yoke. This would be the body of the sweater, which of course would end way down here. And now I'm going back to where I have to deal with these sleeves. And I know I've said it 6 times, but just a reminder, I have way fewer stitches than you will have because I'm knitting this little sample. So what I want to do now is using the double pointed needles because I want to work in the round and it's too small for a circular needle. I want to pick up stitches at the underarm and get all these stitches from the sleeve holder on to the double pointed needles, and then I'm going to knit the sleeves in the round. So let's take a look at how that goes. So I have knit 4 rows in the aqua, so I know that I want to use my fern color. Because remember, I'm maintaining the stripes. And this way the stripes in the sleeve and the stripes on the body will match. So looking here, with the set of 4 larger double pointed needles using the appropriate color, which I just decided was the fern, to continue in stripe pattern beginning at center of the underarm, cast on stitches. So the underarm cast on stitches are right here. That's where I put those are those 4 cursive E that I put on there. That's right where they are. Pick up and knit 2, and then I'm going to knit across the sleeves, and then I'm going to pick up and knit the other 2. So the center of my round is going to be right in the middle, and I'm going to place a marker there to let me know where that round is. So once again, for me personally, I'm in the fern. You will be in whatever color you need to be to keep your stripes consistent. So there's my cast on stitches, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to pick up 2 of those. So that's 1, 2. So there's the 2 that I have picked up. Now, if I had a traditional stitch holder here, I could knit right off of it, but since I don't, I think what I want to do is get these up on a needle so I can knit off of them. I think that would be easier. And they're not going to be evenly spread right now. I'm just doing it for ease. You want to figure out how many stitches you're going to have total. Get about 1/3 of them on each of the 3 needles and use your 4th to knit with. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to pull the stitch holder out just of that side. I think this is going to be easier. All right, now. Make sure I have my working yarn here and not my tail. Same thing, just for ease. I think I want to get these guys up on a needle. Okay, are we all up? Let me just, yep, that last guy's up there. Take that stitch, that waste yarn out of the way. And then remember, I have 2 more to cast, not to cast on, to pick up, which is these 2 remaining underarm guys right here. Pick up 1. Yes, I admit I am not making it look easy. It's a little fiddly, but it's not difficult to do, particularly when you're not trying to aim a camera at your fingers. All right, there's my little last 2 there. Okay, now I have that on 2 needles and I really want it on 3, and I also want to make sure that I am placing a marker at the beginning of the round. So I'm going to bring my tail yarn down here to get it out of my way. I'm going to place a marker. I'm going to grab another needle. And since I was knitting 2 rows in the fern, I'm still in the fern. Oops, sorry guys, banged the camera there for a minute. So I'm going to go a little bit here. Again, optimally, you'll get about 1/3 of the stitches on each needle, and again, you will have far more stitches than I have. But you want to get them set up pretty well evenly on 3 needles, and then you'll be knitting with the 4th. And again, at this point, I'm not counting, I'm just fudging. You will count more neatly because you will have your stitches all organized. Don't forget to move that marker so you know where to change colors and when your round is over. That's my working yarn. There we go. Okay, so here's my top, here's my yoke, here's my front, there's my raglan shaping, and now I'm going to knit the sleeve in rounds in this direction, following the pattern as it is written. And then eventually I'm going to go to the smaller double pointed needles, put some ribbing on there and bind off. When that side is done, I'm going to go to this side and do the same thing. Pick up stitches here, knit all those stitches onto needles, pick up some stitches there, and knit the sleeve so that it is the same size as the other sleeve. And actually, one of the benefits of the stripe is it's really easy to make sure they're exactly the same length, because you can just count the stripes and make sure that's even. So now that I have all of that knitting completed, there's 2 things left to do, and those are the bands. One side is going to be a button band, and one side is going to be the buttonhole band, and I'm going to follow the instructions to the letter because it'll tell you how to do that. We're going to cast off 2 stitches, every certain number of stitches, to give some buttonholes, and where you're going to pick up those stitches is along the front edge. So where it says pick up and knit, you're doing it along here. And then you're going to work in knit 2, purl 2 ribbing to match the ribbing at the collar and the cuffs. And you will work in ribbing and then bind off in ribbing. After that, all you have to do is weave in the ends and sew on the buttons, and you are all finished. The fact that we did that, well, let's look at the other side. Because we cast on the 4 stitches here, and then we picked up through them, that eliminates any need for an underarm seam. Sometimes when you see raglan shaping, you need an underarm seam to work on, but we don't have that here because we made it happen for you. So thank you so much for joining me here on the 5-a-day knit cardigan. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life. Please like this video and subscribe to the Yarnspirations channel for fresh video content every week on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny crafts. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.